You are alive in a place that should have killed you. 2 miles of black water sit above your head. No sunlight has ever touched this spot, not once, in the entire history of the planet. The temperature hovers just above freezing, and the pressure pressing in on your suit is over 8,000 pounds on every single square inch. By every rule your body knows, this is a death zone. And yet all around you, something is alive. For most of human history, everyone agreed on one thing about the deep ocean. It was a desert, a cold, black, empty void where nothing could survive. No light meant no plants. No plants meant no food. No food meant no life. The logic seemed airtight. They were wrong. To understand how wrong, you have to go down. So let's descend, foot by foot, and watch the rules of life quietly fall apart. The first 660 feet, 200 meters, is the only part of the ocean that behaves the way you'd expect. This is the sunlight zone. Light pours down, tiny floating plants called phytoplankton soak it up, and everything else eats them or eats each other. It's a normal food chain, powered by the sun, just like the world above the waves. Most of the ocean life you've ever seen lives in this thin, bright layer. But the ocean's average depth is around 12,000 feet, 3,700 meters. That sunlit layer is just the skin on top of something enormous. Keep sinking. By 660 feet, the light begins to die. By 3,300 feet, 1,000 meters, it's gone completely. This is the point where, for a long time, scientists assumed the living world ended. They called everything below it the deep sea and quietly wrote it off as barren. So how does anything survive down here, where the sun can never reach? The first answer is one of the strangest survival tricks in nature. If there is no light, you make your own. Roughly 9 out of every 10 animals in the deep ocean can produce light from their own bodies. The term for this is bioluminescence, a chemical reaction inside the animal that glows, cold and electric, with no heat at all. It's the same trick a firefly uses, except down here it's not the exception. It's the rule. Picture an anglerfish. It hangs in the dark with a thin stalk arching over its head, and at the tip glows a single pale lure. To a smaller fish, that little light looks like a meal floating alone in the void. It swims toward it, and the anglerfish, mouth lined with needle teeth, simply waits. In a world with no light, light itself becomes bait. But glowing in the dark only solves one problem. It doesn't solve the biggest one: pressure. Down here, the weight of all that water above you is almost impossible to imagine. At 3,300 feet, the pressure is about 100 times what you feel standing on a beach. At the very bottom of the deepest trench, it climbs past 16,000 pounds per square inch. That's like balancing the weight of a fully loaded jumbo jet on a single fingertip. A submarine built for shallow water would be crushed flat in an instant. So why aren't the animals crushed too? The answer is almost funny in its simplicity. They have no air inside them to crush. A human dies down here because your lungs, your sinuses, the little pockets of gas inside you, all collapse under the load. Deep-sea animals skip that design entirely. Their bodies are mostly water and soft tissue, with no air spaces, and since water can't be squeezed, the pressure pushes in from the outside and pushes back out from the inside, perfectly balanced. The very force that should destroy them is the only environment they can live in. Pull a deep-sea fish up to the surface too fast, and it's the lack of pressure that kills it. Sit with that for a second. The thing that would end you instantly is the only thing keeping them alive. Then there's the cold and the hunger. The deep ocean is just a few degrees above freezing, and there's almost nothing to eat. Up in the sunlight zone, food is everywhere. Down here, a meal might be a flake of dead matter drifting slowly down from far above, a slow snowfall scientists actually call marine snow. It can take weeks to fall, and it might be the only food an animal sees for months. So deep-sea animals evolve to wait. They move slowly. They eat rarely. They live long. Meet Bathynomus, the giant isopod, a deep-sea relative of the little roly-poly bugs in your garden, except blown up to the size of a house cat. Scientists have kept one in captivity that famously refused to eat for over 5 years and survived just fine. Down here, doing almost nothing is a brilliant survival strategy. For a long time, every answer pointed back to the same source: the sun. The light up top fed the plankton fed the marine snow, and the marine snow drifted down to feed the dark. Even in the deepest blackness, the whole system still seemed to depend distantly on the sun. And then, in 1977, that idea broke open completely. A team of scientists climbed into a tiny 3-person submersible called Alvin, operated by the WHOI Oceanographic Institution, and dropped nearly 8,000 feet, 2,400 meters, down to the seafloor near the Galapagos Islands. The geologist Robert Ballard was part of the effort to study them. What they found there was not supposed to exist. Cracks in the ocean floor were venting scalding, mineral-rich water heated by the magma below. These were hydrothermal vents, underwater hot springs, some belching dark clouds of minerals that earned them the nickname Black Smokers. That alone was a remarkable discovery, but it wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was that the vents were swarming with life. Giant tube worms taller than a person, with no mouth and no stomach, swayed in dense forests around the vents. The species is called riftia. Clams the size of dinner plates clustered in the cracks. Crabs and shrimp scrambled over everything. In the coldest, darkest, most lifeless place anyone could imagine, there was an explosion of living things, more crowded than a coral reef. How? There was no sunlight. No marine snow could explain a crowd this size, so what was feeding them? The answer rewrote biology. Those vents were pumping out chemicals from inside the Earth, including a gas called hydrogen sulfide, the stuff that smells like rotten eggs and is poison to most life. Down here, microscopic bacteria had learned to eat that poison. They use the chemicals from the vent the way a plant uses sunlight, turning them into energy and food. The process is called chemosynthesis, life built on chemistry instead of light. The giant tube worms don't even need to hunt. They're packed full of these bacteria, living inside their bodies, feeding them from within. The worm provides shelter and raw chemicals. The bacteria provide food. Neither could survive alone. Do you understand what that means? An entire thriving ecosystem, completely cut off from the sun, running on the raw chemical heat of the planet itself. Life, it turned out, did not actually require sunlight. It just required an energy source, and the Earth had been quietly providing one the whole time. This is the counterintuitive twist that changed everything. For centuries, the deep ocean was written off as a barren wasteland, the place where life ran out. It may be closer to the opposite. The deep sea is the largest living space on the entire planet, and humans have explored only a tiny fraction of it. Some scientists believe most of the species down there have never been seen, named, or imagined. When Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh rowed the bathyscaphe Trieste to the very bottom of the Challenger Deep in 1960, almost 36,000 feet, 10,900 meters, down, they expected to find nothing alive. Instead, Piccard reported seeing what looked like a flatfish drifting near the bottom, life at the deepest point in the ocean, under pressure that should have been unsurvivable. It wasn't empty, it never was. Now think about where that leaves you. Your species had mapped the surface of the Moon and Mars in detail before it had mapped the floor of its own ocean. The animals in the deep didn't beat the rules of survival. They simply followed a different set of rules, ones written long before your eyes ever learned to need light. They glow in the dark because there is no sun. They feel no crushing weight because they carry no air. They eat poison and call it dinner. So the next time someone tells you life needs sunlight to survive, remember the tube worms in the dark, swaying around a poisonous vent, more alive than almost anything on the surface. Because 2 miles down in a place that should have killed you, something is very much alive. It always has been. You just weren't looking.